Okay, hey everybody. If you're tuning in, here we have the CEO of Victory Square Technology, Shafin Diamond Tejani. Thank you so much for coming in. It's been quite a long time since I've been in front of a camera, but wanted to make an exception here because there's so much going on with you guys that I thought it was definitely worth getting you on camera and asking you some questions. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. I like the diamond hand. I'm gonna have to steal that.
You got to add a little bit of Reddit appeal to these things. Anybody following our channels, you're going to be really up to speed on the story. But Shaf, for anybody new to this, do you want to give us maybe a quick, 30, 40-second high-level overview? What is VST and what is it you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, so VST is we're a venture build studio. So we find some of the top disruptive entrepreneurs and tech companies from around the world. And then we're usually the first check in. We roll up our sleeves. We have this moniker of time, knowledge, and money. So we work with these companies and these founders for anywhere from 12 to 48 months to get customer market fit, grow and validate them, leverage our entire network. And then when those companies are mature and commercializing, we spin them off and unlock value for VST. So there's currently 23 companies in the portfolio, again, from all over the world. We kind of democratize access for retail investors so they can get in on the ground floor in all these companies via investing in Victory Square, publicly traded in Germany, the US, and Canada. And the sectors that we're mostly focused in are AI, cloud computing, digital health, gaming, blockchain, and augmented and virtual reality.
Love it. I think there's two kind of main things that really stood out to me when I first found you guys is that one, for the everyday investor to invest in something pre-IPO or, even long before that, when it's truly like a seed financing, you just can't really do that as a retail investor. So to be able to, invest in shares in VST and essentially be part of that journey, I think was really cool. You guys have had some pretty big wins, obviously Fans Unite being such a fantastic case study for somebody to see the process of seed, incubate, raise further capital, and spin them out and unlock that value. Pretty incredible what you guys are doing. The one thing I'm seeing where there is some confusion, it's around, revenue. Like a typical company, they sell a product for more than it costs to produce, and then they have, revenue and profit from that. With you guys being a venture incubator, it's a little bit differently. We're looking at the net asset value of your overall portfolio. So we were getting a lot of questions from investors about revenue. So let's talk about when we see your financial statements, which you just reported a ton of revenue. How should an investor look at that? Like what revenue is actually being reported from your subsidiary companies?
Yeah, so I'll answer that. Just one note on what you just mentioned. I think, so VST, I'm the largest shareholder and have, invested my own funds kind of in this. And to the point of like, as an investor, you're generally only, able to look at what's in, what early seed stage tech companies are in your geographic region. And so for us, the real key is to put them into a basket where you're aligned with management, and it's public, audited, and transparent. So I mean, just to your point earlier. I mean, that's what we thought as investors ourselves. This is what we wanted to invest in, and so we kind of couldn't find anything out there. So we built Victory Square for that purpose for ourselves. But on the question of revenues, two things. One, we are only able to book revenues on our balance sheet if we own over 50% of a company. And we then pick up the proportionate ownership of our revenue for that company. So we have a couple of wholly owned subsidiaries where that would be the case. But one other note you mentioned, which was, a traditional technology company builds a product and then sells the product for a certain amount, and then it's got this profit, for example. Well, in theory, our product are these portfolio companies that we're buying, building, and investing in early. So when we invest in them, it may be a cost base of $1. After we've worked with them for 36 months, that dollar might be worth $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 once it's spun out. And at that point, we then sell some of that product off, which we then are able to kind of reinvest back into the business to continue to compound that growth. So we've kind of built this, a self-sustaining machine. When you reference the 2020 numbers, again, they're key to understand that 2020 was an inflection point. And because our process and journey started in 2017, we had about 13 to 15 companies that we seeded then. We worked with them for about 36 months, which which was 2020 last year for some of those companies. And as those companies got spun out, the value of our dollar that we put into those businesses was significantly higher. So when you look at net income, that is the unlock of value to kind of show the difference between what we paid for those products or what our cost was to build those products to what they are, let's say, 36 months later. Now, that was the first go around. On a go forward basis, every year, including this year, that net income number is a really key number to look at, because every time an investment of ours or a portfolio company of ours is deconsolidated, which means we go below a certain ownership level, then the true value of what our dollar in that investment is worth comes on our balance sheet. And so I would expect investors to see this on an ongoing basis as we go forward.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, just to continue with that, you'll see when you do have a liquidity event and one of your portfolio companies, let's say, goes public, like Fans, for example, if your ownership now drops below that 50% threshold, shareholders might see a drop in revenue. And if they don't understand how you evaluate a business like this, they might say, hey, oh my God, the revenue is decreasing, something must be wrong, when in fact, no, you're just locking in what's probably a pretty substantial gain to your net asset value. So to make sure shareholders understand that, I think, is obviously so important. So I was going to say, there's, obviously there's a lot of chat about institutions and, getting their attention. Certainly being in the venture markets, trading on the CSE, retail investors are kind of the not the be all end all, but they're kind of the main focus. However, your company obviously has a lot of elements, for one, substantial revenue that make you much more appropriate for institutions to start taking a look. So a lot of people are kind of asking in general, like, what kind of strategies do you have in place to start getting in front of these bigger shareholders, these institutions?
No, great question. So the first is, we've hired really strong IR partners in both Canada and the US. So working with Edge Investments here in Canada and Lithium Partners in the United States. So, making introductions and connecting us with a lot of institutional offices and family offices is one step. The second is, we regularly participate in investor conferences. So more recently, we were in the Lithium Conference, Planet Micro, and HC Wainwright, and we'll be in an investor summit this month. So I think just getting out there and doing the virtual roadshow and getting the story into as many institutional faces as we can. So we're always kind of aggressively participating in those. We also, regularly and consistently push out content. So, we put out thought leadership pieces. We continue to tell the VST story through a variety of different channels. And we do that on a regular basis on YouTube. I think some of our pieces and thought leadership pieces were covered by Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, and Onward. And then, we also work with marketing agencies from time to time, to bring new eyeballs to the Victory Square story. So we're aggressively, working with different partners to continue to tell the story, push out content, and get in front of new eyeballs, every week.
And this is we get asked this question. I don't know if you'll even be able to answer it, but I'm going to ask you anyways. People are always pretty much ask anyone who's on trading on like a junior venture exchange, what would the process be to move to something like the NASDAQ or the big board TSX? Like, is that something that's kind of, in the future for you guys? Do you see that as somewhere to go? I also know that the CSE is a really great place. It's a very easy place to do business as an issuer. You have your own business to worry about. You don't need to worry, about a pile of regulations as well. But is that possibly on the agenda?
Yeah. So, the first thing I want to just kind of echo the sentiment, you just made. We've had a great positive experience with the CSE. They're a great organization, great team, and they provide a lot of really good support for the companies listed on their exchange. For us, though, I think Victory Square is at a point now where we need to uplist. We want to uplist, and I think by being uplisted, we're going to meet the criteria of some institutional investors and family offices globally. that we'll invest on other types of exchanges. So we've started that process already. The first step would be the TSX, and then the second, which would be NASDAQ, which I think would be a little bit further down the line. But the TSX is definitely, we've started that process to explore that.
Excellent. And for anybody watching out there, just keep in mind, these are, it's an intention, but don't hold us to the fire on this. Uplisting is complicated. It's time consuming. So I just more wanted to know, is that something you guys are even considering? And it sounds like you are. So I got you. Okay, so here's something that kind of goes back to the whole concept of being a venture incubator. There's a different scorecard you're going to be kind of graded on, being net asset value as a key stat. So there's certain ways that you can return capital to shareholders. Now, one is, first off, you're the first venture issuer I've ever worked with that has even said the word dividend, truly. So a lot of people are curious about, okay, the share dividend of Game On, for example. So I see a lot of people who truly don't understand the value of a share dividend, but also the fact that even without a share dividend, they still benefit from a spin out of Game On. So maybe let's just talk a little bit about Game On, just as an example.
Yep.
So you have mentioned that's something you're looking to do. Let's talk about kind of why you might do that and the pros and cons, essentially.
Yeah. So, I think our model is to, buy low, work with these companies, spin them out high. And every time we do that, we unlock value for VST. And given that there's, a number of companies and there's a long-term kind of vision, we look at a couple of different factors. One is from a business point of view, creating liquidity to reinvest and compound growth over time is important. The second is to reward shareholders. So for myself, as the largest shareholder, I don't intend to sell my VST or Victory Square shares. So on an ongoing basis, if I'm given a dividend as the company performs year over year, I'm going to be happier and more in tune not only with the Victory Square story, but I may follow that portfolio company and be a foundational investor or shareholder or share owner of that company. So it's important for a couple of reasons. One, as a shareholder myself, I think being rewarded for patience and support of a company is important. It makes me want to hold my share and again buy into the long-term success of the company. So for us, it's very important to allow our share owners to participate in the success of the company on an ongoing basis. Game On, we announced it. We intend to do it. And before we announced it, we actually had talked about a dividend in kind of two formats. One is a cash dividend. The other is a share dividend. What we found is most of our share owners were very vocal in that, given that they follow the story of some of the companies as they're maturing in the portfolio, they preferred to have a share dividend where they could get a share in any of our spin-offs as they would go out. So that's why we announced the Game On share dividend as the first. And from a timing perspective, I know because a lot of we've had a lot of feedback on that. Once Game On lists, then we're able to do the share dividend. We're not able to do it in advance because it's still a private company, but it'll happen as soon as it lists. And furthermore, it will be commonplace. Like, our intention is not for this to be a one-off, that when we spin off Immersive and whatever portfolio company comes next, that we intend to do the same thing and kind of make it a pattern to reward and recognize our share owners for their support of Victory Square.
Awesome. And again, for those watching, I do see some confusion out there where people think, okay, if you do the share dividend, they get these, quote unquote, free shares that they wouldn't have otherwise had. And if you choose not to do the share dividend, some people think, oh no, now I'm getting ripped off. I don't have these shares. So just to clarify to anybody watching, if you own VST, you already own these shares. They're already yours by virtue of being a shareholder of VST. If they do get dividend out, you just get more flexibility, right? Those shares now sit in your brokerage account. If you want to sell them, you could. If you want to hold them, you could. It just gives you flexibility. You're not getting just something for nothing. So just to clarify to anyone who might be confused still. Second thing about returning capital to shareholders is the share buyback program.
Yep.
A lot of excitement about that. It was announced. It was a pretty sizable buyback program. I'm just curious, can you talk a little bit, in whatever detail you're allowed to generally speaking, what's the strategy? Like, when are you going to buy? How much do you expect? Can you give us any kind of guidance on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when we initiated the share buyback program earlier, it's a strategic tool for us to use for throughout this year, through the year of 2021. There are some criteria which I don't have offhand, but they're in the news release on kind of the parameters and kind of what we're able to do. And I think it really is around the percentage that we can purchase over the course of a given trading day or month or year. But it's strategic for us. It's not something that we come out and blow out on one day or 1 week or 1 month. It's a tool that we can use to kind of help manage where the share price is kind of on an ongoing basis throughout the year. And I'll give you a specific example. Our stock at the very beginning, not very beginning, but let's say a couple months ago was predominantly heavy retail. Now it's still a lot of retail investors, but we've brought in some institutions and some family offices on board. But we would see a lot of gapping in our stock, and so at a lot of times, a lot of retail traders would have a stop loss that if that would be triggered and it would be automated. And so what we noticed is that you would see these big gaps of maybe like 10 cents that would pop, but it wasn't because there was a big selling demand. It was just there wasn't a lot of we had a lot of gaps in the stock and there were a lot of stop losses on a lot of the trading accounts. So we put that in place to initially kind of prevent the share price or the market cap from going to a point which was not necessarily reflective of the value at that time, and is a tool to kind of help better manage the consistency of our trading pattern throughout the year. We hate like massive volatility. We like the slow and steady growth, and I think if you look at our chart over the last 6 months, you'll see slow and steady kind of growth. And so the buyback we initiated for this year to be used as a tool to kind of help manage the volatility on certain trading days throughout the year. We did initiate some buybacks in Q1, and I think it was updated on our year-end financial statements.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so in a way, you're kind of your own internal market maker, kind of stabilize the stock, but let's not expect, if you're a shareholder, don't expect to see you guys come in, place some massive bids, and drive the price up. It's not for that. It's more about stability.
It's for stability.
Fair to
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think for us, our business model is to again, is to find these buy, build, and invest in early seed stage kind of innovative companies very early. That's our business model. That's how we feel we can get the best ROI for our share owners by allocating our capital into those avenues. But as a business, there's so many different variables. So we have allocated resources and capital towards market stability, which I think is important for everybody. And I think as our company and our share price, and our market continues to mature, we may have to use it less and less. On that. So
couple last kind of questions. The last little section, it's more about your portfolio company. So just a couple little questions. Obviously, Game On is kind of the most common thing to talk about right now. It's the portfolio company closest to being spun out. One thing that I know certainly firsthand, the exchanges and the regulators are incredibly backed up right now. Everything is taking substantially longer than it would have this same time last year. So I'm sure we don't have any hard date on when the Game On IPO is. Can you give us kind of any guidance on how things are going? Generally speaking, what stage you're at?
Yeah, so you pointed it out. I think the exchanges and the regulators are massively backed up. And I know they're doing the best job that they can given the circumstances. Upon the last update we received, which was I think on Wednesday of this week, Game On is set to be listed this month. Everything has been submitted, so I would anticipate it being being public this month.
Got it. So hoping for May, but shareholders out there, Be kind if it's June. It is certainly the company is doing everything they can right now. The market is hot. There's lots of new deal flow, and the exchanges are just have their hands full. So everything is on track.
Well, and one just a couple notes on that too. So, on the financing they did, the funds are kind of held in escrow, so investors that need not worry. Those funds don't get released to the company, until a listing date. And one of the notes too, like the business, Game On is still continuing to crush it. So it's had no disruption on the business. The team is pushing forward, working on some exciting things, and they're excited. They're really excited to share those updates with shareholders and get listed as well, so that they can be, I think, a bit more aggressive on their M&A strategy too. So the company itself is, Game On has continued to, to on their growth trajectory. And any of those funds that were part of their financing are in escrow, and they don't get released until, until the company lists. So.
Perfect. Okay, obviously right now we're talking a lot about crypto. Like that blockchain hype is back for the first time in a few years, which is pretty wild to see. Obviously, in your portfolio, we have some exposure to that. Do you want to touch a little bit about kind of what you have in the blockchain / crypto space, and what the intention might be in that sector kind of going forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm not sure if people know about our history, but we listed the first publicly traded blockchain company, here in Canada in 2015, called BTL, and we've been in this space, the crypto space and the blockchain space, I would say since like maybe 2012, 2013. In addition to that, like, if you look back in 2017 or 2018 on our news releases, you'll see that we hosted the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami. We hosted the World Blockchain Forum in London, Dubai, New York City. We hosted these decentralized conferences around the world. So we've been in this space for a long time. We've got an amazing network, and we've got a ton of projects. So if anyone looks at our news releases again in 2018, you'll see that we were running these investor prize pools where we're taking ownership in, we probably have 25, 30, token investments from a variety of different blockchain and crypto companies, from 18 onwards. There's some that are more material. So, for example, Covalent, which started on a desk in our offices, is now grown considerably. An amazing team. They're working in, on the data infrastructure in that space. There's two new companies that we kind of formed, and we formed them around investment assets that we had. One was blockchain assembly. The focus there is we're evaluating a number of blockchain companies from around the world. This first cohort is specifically coming from Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and India. And we're looking at a cohort of companies in some verticals and sectors that we're focused on that we'll bring to Canada and dive deeper into them. And they're kind of under this banner blockchain assembly. There's another called BlockX, which again, we've been running some simulation strategies, crypto investment strategies around in the DeFi space, around the top 100 altcoins, and then some other staking projects around Cardano, Solano, Polkadot, and Near. Those would kind of fall under the BlockX category. And then a big focus for us is around social tokens and creator coins. This is a project that we have in that space called Fedi that will be communicating to the markets very shortly as well. And that's a whole new space. So we're big proponents of Web 3.0, decentralization, blockchain, crypto. Again, we think we're really early in that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of hype and things around NFTs and all of these different things. Our philosophy has always been around two things. One, we believe the technology is sound. We don't get caught up in the hype and all of that. And we're long term. So, over time, we think that we've got the right people, we're in the right projects, and we've kind of got the right game plan and mindset to really, really unlock some significant value in this space, given that we've been in it early and we've got a bit of a first mover advantage. So,
awesome. Well, this was, short and sweet. I think that was a great update. We've covered some pretty key fundamental questions for investors. About time I got to get on camera with you. So thanks for giving me some of your time. That's awesome. Diamond Hands, thank you, sir. For everyone, watching, as a reminder, Victory Square Technologies trading in Canada, VST.cn. In the US on the OTC markets, VSQTF. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out to us. We're here around the clock ready to answer them. Shaf, thanks so much.
Thanks so much. And just one last point. Someone I think sent a question into us today. So might be good just to answer. They were asking about an update on Street Care. So I'm super excited to let everyone know. Keep your eyes out. I think in the next 7 to 10 business days, we'll be launching it. The site will be live. We'll definitely let everyone know. But it's a question that we got asked today. So I just wanted to make sure that we could let our share owners know. And keep tuned. There's some other exciting updates coming.
Right on. Exciting. Okay. Well, thank you so much, sir. And, have a great rest of your day and looking forward to doing this again.
Thanks, brother.
Okay. Take care.
Cheers.